All right. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Today, I wanted to talk to you about, show you Sage 100, but also how that can extend out to the field. So Sage 100 is a fully integrated accounting, project management, operations, and estimating system all in one. If you look at our menu on the left-hand side, you can see that you probably tick off quite a few things that you do throughout the day, from accounting to project management functions, to maybe estimating, scheduling, maybe even getting into things like equipment management, inventory. And while we aren't going to cover all these things today, I do want to touch on some of the integration that Sage provides within our product, but then also how that it can extend to the field. You know, pulling data from the field is always time-consuming and difficult. A lot of times it's just a timeliness of them getting that paperwork in the office, and then also just the distance that they're away. It takes some time for them to maybe do it on paper, or they're doing it in Excel. It's all very disjointed. I think Sage has a good solution of pulling those two pieces together, what we handle in the back office, and then what we extend out to the field. So within Sage, Sage is going to be our core back office product that people in the office are going to use on a day-to-day basis. They're going to be able to set up projects that they use, that we're working on. So for example, here's our job screen where we can set up a project that we're working on. As you can see just from the job screen how construction specific it is. It is tracking retainage, tracking our contract amount. We're able to tell the software if this is a certified job so we can keep up with certified payroll. But we're also able to quickly access information about this job, whether it's the job budget and putting together a budget for the job that we can track our costs against, because really the budget is the starting point of cost control for any project. This is where we can list out the cost codes that we want to track and then break down those costs into cost types. So again, very construction specific layout that is customizable for your business. We also are able to log those contracts with subcontractors. We're able to put in the the schedule of values for those subcontractors and really track against that. You can see from this screen how it really lays out the schedule of values and integrates back in with the change orders that may affect the subcontractor, with accounts payable and the invoices that are affecting the subcontractor. So just from this screen, I'm able to tell my original contract with the sub, the changes, what's been invoiced so far, and what is still remaining. And I can quickly get to other detailed information like those invoices that have been entered and drill into any one of these items, along with accessing the changes that affected the subcontract. So a project manager or accounting person can come into the job screen, see that budget, see the subcontracts, maybe view any purchase orders that have been issued, but also deal with change orders. So I'm able to log in change orders and track wherever they are in the process. Are they a change order that is still being more of a request that hasn't been approved yet? Or has it been approved and now we want that change to update our contract amount? We want that change to go out and notify the subcontractor that was involved. I think the change order in Sage did a great job of just keeping it very simple. Everything we need about the change order is all in this one screen, from the changes to my contractor or my customer, and then how it impacts the job's budget, but also any subcontractors that are involved. And of course, Sage is going to produce a professional document for my customer that I can send out to them to have them sign off on and send back to me. So here's my change order that is completely customizable. We could add logos in here, add our own terms and conditions, but this reflects the changes that this change order is making to our contract, along with any other previous changes that have occurred. It also is going to reference any time that we're adding to the project as well if we choose to. So also within Sage, we are able to manage purchase orders and do billing, see a complete summary of the contract, keep up with proposals, also view accounts payable and service invoices. So really, the entire life cycle of the job is available for any user right within the screen, which this is, as I mentioned, a fully integrated solution and great for the back office. But how do we get some of this information out to the hands in the field and also get the information that the field is gathering back into the office? And we do that through our Sage Service Operations. Sage Service Operations for construction is what extends what the office sees to the field and gathers information from the field to bring back to the office. And so a couple of tools that we can put in the hands of our project managers or superintendents is first some scheduling. We have regular project scheduling, but this is more resource scheduling, managing the subcontractors that work on a project, the equipment that we may need on that project, and maybe employees that we need on the project. So as a project manager or superintendent, I'm able to come into this web-based program that I can access from my laptop, from my desktop, or out in the field on a tablet or a phone. Once I bring up Sage Service Operations Construction, I'm able to see all the equipment that I own, any subcontractors that I want to schedule, and the employees that I choose to schedule. Now, if you notice over here on the left-hand side, I've got a couple of projects that I've selected for us to look at today. Sage brings up all of the different budget items or cost points within the job. So these are what I have created budgets for. So when we looked at that budget screen, those are the budget numbers I selected and put hours against. So I can use these items to schedule from. So I'm simply able to grab one of these items that I need to schedule and drag and drop it to either an employee or add that task to a subcontractor or add that same task to a piece of equipment. So now any user that has access to SSO Construction can come in here and view what's been scheduled out for this week, maybe the next 2 weeks, or even going out a month. So everyone can be on the same page and not have to call around, where is a piece of equipment? Now I can plan that I've got enough coverage from either employees or my subcontractors. I'm able to see this all within one screen. I can also pull up other jobs and schedule for them as well. So not only can we use our scheduling tool to schedule our resources, but I can also use SSO Construction to manage record some of the information that's happening in the field. So let's go to our job screen here. Let me pull up a project that I'm working on. And what the user in the field is now able to have access to is information as it's coming directly from Sage. So the jobs that I've set up in Sage, I'm going to see here through SSO. Here's just project information. I can click on the directions and it will bring up a map and let me route to my job site. I also can view all the contacts on the job. So any contacts that were set up in Sage, I'm going to be able to view here and access their phone numbers. So we all have the same contacts. I have to call back to the office to ask for a phone number. I also can attach other pictures along with other documents. So typically some of the things that happen in the field that cause us to have to call back to the office or get somebody else involved are maybe buying materials on the job site. If I'm out on the job site, maybe I need to run to Home Depot and purchase some miscellaneous materials. I probably want them to call into the office to get a purchase order number, but with SSO, they can self-serve. They can come in here and say, I'm going to go to Home Depot. I can put in what vendor I'm going to. I can give a short reason for what I'm doing, purchasing additional materials. I can then create the purchase order. And at this point, all I may do is that. Now the office is aware that I've gone to Home Depot and what I'm doing and what job it should go to. So then when the invoice comes in referencing purchase order 162, I know what job it should be coded to, and I know who to ask questions of where maybe it should be coded. Now the office is going to see this purchase order show up in Sage, but somebody in the office is also going to get a notification email. So you're able to set up who should be notified that a purchase order has been generated in the field. Now, if I did get a receipt, I could come into my attachments tool here and add an attachment. So I could pick what item I want. I could just drag and drop a receipt picture that I've taken. Just going to grab a picture here. And I can just drag that over here, and it's now attached, that item. And I can say receipt and add it. Now, when I look back at the purchase order within Sage, not only is it going to have the description of what I ordered, it's also going to have the job it's attached to and the attachment of the picture of the receipt that I took. So really everything the office needs when the invoice comes in to make sure that what was ordered is matching up to the invoice. So if I go back into Sage now and I go into my purchase orders and we pull up that PO 162, I see the purchase order I created. I see the user that created it in the field. It's tied to a job. And up here under my attachments, there's that receipt that I can open up and view. Now, if the user has more information or wants to provide us with more information, they can come into the items menu here and add individual items, giving a description and the quantity and a price so that we further have additional information. But that's up to the user and your workflow. So aside from being able to capture receipts that are done in the field, I also can capture field reports. And the field reports contain a lot of information. So I'm going to pull up a field report that I just created. And I can capture a lot of standard information, the weather, the temperature, but I can also maybe capture some basic information about safety. Was a safety meeting held? How many people attended it? And then from all these tabs here, this is additional information that I can capture to relay back to the office. Maybe notes about the job. And I can type in some notes. I can also log what subcontractors were on the job site today. I can log any incidents that maybe occurred on the job site today, along with any meetings and any equipment usage. If I do operate equipment on the job, I can log in what equipment was used, and this will flow back into Sage to eventually job cost that equipment to our job. If I keep up with units that were completed, I can log the units that were completed today, along with attached pictures. So here's a couple of pictures that I attached about the progress of the job. And a nice tool that we also have within SSO Construction is if I want to maybe send some further communication to somebody in the office or outside of the office about a picture that I took. We have a sketch tool that I can bring up an image that I've loaded, so one of those pictures, and I'll just grab one of them. Now I've got my image, and I can come in here and draw on it. I can, circle something, add an arrow, notate it however I like, add maybe an additional comment. And then I can choose to email this to anybody in the office or outside of the office, as it allows us to send to anyone. Now I can save this and send my report. Now I'll get an email with that image attached that's been marked up. So we're collecting a lot of project information, but a lot of times if we have employees and we self-perform work, we also can capture payroll information. So I'm able to record what employees worked on my job site today. I'm able to come in under assignments and either log time or start work if I've created assignments on the job and say, Tanya started working doing demolition, and this is going to now log in against my job. And it's going to pull into payroll, so I don't have to rekey that information. So a lot of times I hear that we want to collect time from the field, but our individual employees are not filling out their own timesheets. The foreman on the job or the superintendent on the job is the one doing that collection of time. And this lends very well to that, for me to be able to come in here and say, okay, on the job today, I did this type of work. These employees worked on the job today, and they all worked this many hours. Now I can save this time, and it's going to not only enter it against this job for me to view on my daily field report, but it's also going to send it over to payroll so that we can eventually pay these employees on this time and job cost it to the job. So this information now is beginning to flow back into Sage. So now if I, again, return to Sage, we already looked at the purchase order that was created, but let's look at that daily field report. So now if I come into my document control and into daily field reports, I can pull up that daily field report that was entered in the field. And so now the office is going to be able to view the details of the report. They're going to be able to see those attachments, those pictures that we attached. They're also going to be able to view those notes, view the subcontractors that were there, the equipment, and any of those incidents or meetings that occurred on the job. So instead of having to wait for somebody in the field to bring this information back in or email this information and now have to then save it in a Dropbox folder or a folder on the network, it's all within our one core system within Sage. So now I can pull up any piece of information about the job, whether it's information from the field, reviewing that purchase order. It's all available for me to access. Now, another thing that I hear a lot is that change orders, the communication of changes happens a lot in the field, as we all know. So a couple of things that I can do to document those changes requests from the field is using our change orders. So I've got a link to my change orders. One, our superintendents or project managers out in the field, they can view all the change orders that have already been entered and see the current status. So if they're getting asked about a change order, they can view where it is in our process. But if they also are getting a change order request from the field, instead of an email going out that may get lost or remembering to call in and tell somebody about it, they can go ahead and log that change in right here from the field. They simply can come to add change order. They can give it a type, and this is pulling from your user-defined list of types. It was a client request. They can give a description. Maybe type in some additional notes, type in a reason. And now Sage is going to take us to putting in some additional information about the change order. Now, it may be that that's all we know, and it's got to be sent back to the office for somebody else to price out this change request that's being passed along to the next person. But we're documenting this in the field, so it's not getting overlooked. We're not moving forward with doing this additional concrete work and never billing our customer for it. Because that's what I hear a lot of times is that, you know, we do this additional work, things are moving so quickly, we're doing the additional work, but the office never hears about it. But by being able to log in this change request from the field, we're capturing that information so that the office is now going to see that change request and be able to make sure that it's either been approved or it's been rejected, but at least we know about it and we can make the decision so that it doesn't get overlooked and not billed. So once this change request is created, we're going to be able to go now into Sage and see that change request. So what somebody created in the field is, again, available right here for me in the office to be able to review. So I'm able to see the change request, the client request that was initiated out in the field. I'm able to add it now in additional information as I have here in this example. And if I had attached any pictures, I would see those pictures attached up here. So anything, again, that was logged in the field in SSO construction flows back through to the office. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the status really controls how this affects our job. So if I go back to my job screen, this change order has been approved. And if I go back to my job screen and I look at my contract summary, I'm able to see that we keep up with the changes, and these are approved changes. There's also a line item for open changes. So we always have visibility into any of the change orders that are out there on a job, whether they've been approved and are now updating our contract, or they're still open. There's still going to be visibility on it. Then, as a project manager or maybe an executive who's accessing the system maybe in a more high-level format through our dashboard, I'm even able to keep an eye on all those change orders that haven't been approved. So it can go from the field, a field request on somebody's iPad or phone, come back into the office for me to review as a high level. So now I can see any change orders that have not been approved. And if I drill into this, I'm going to see a list of all those change orders, whether they were initiated from the office or from the field. Nothing's overlooked. We're not going to miss billing any of these now. So aside from being able to create change requests, I'm also able to create some other documents. And let me take us back in here. So also from our job screen, we talked about that we could do purchase orders. We talked about we could do field reports and change orders, but we also can do RFIs. And so the RFIs could be, again, initiated from the field because that's a lot of times where they do come from. And I'm able to go into the RFI, record the description of what type of RFI it is, keep up with what the status is, and attach those photos, and maybe even type in a note or two about the request. And I can attach as many photos to this RFI as well. So again, getting the information directly from the field and keeping the office on the same page of what's going on out there in the field. No more hunting through a user's email or looking through a Dropbox folder for this information. We also can do RFPs, and if we do any type of service work, we could also view any work orders that have been issued against this job. We're also able to create some reports, and if I had any reports attached, they would be here, and then just overall attachments that maybe I want to save against this job. So here's a bunch of attachments, including sketches. So just to recap, Sage Service Operation extends a lot of the office functionality that a user in the office would be able to do: purchase orders, RFPs, change orders, RFIs, daily field reports. We're able to gather that information in the field, but then seamlessly connect it to the office through SSO construction. So now, as a user in the office, I'm no longer relying on someone to send me something, call in something, find it on a hard drive or a Dropbox folder. I'm able to access that information myself. So I'm eliminating calls to the field, but also eliminating the calls from the field requesting information. And as a project manager or a user in the system, I can come at any time into my job screen again and access that information that I generated, whether it was the purchase order from the field, whether it was the change order from the field, and keep up with the status of it. So I know this is a short introduction to Sage and kind of covering some of the project management functions and how they extend to the field, but I just wanted to introduce everybody on the phone to the integration that Sage provides and how we extend that functionality out to the field. So with that, I think Tim was going to check and see if there are any questions on anything that we covered